Welcome to the other side of the counter. This is actually where I work. This is my store. And then this is kind of like the coffee side. I've got the decent espresso, the niche, and the Malconic. That's my trusty pour over grinder. But today I just wanted to talk about the slowest pour possible and why it is necessary to use it. And sometimes you just have to because it makes the best coffee with that particular bean. So let's get right into it and talk about why we need the slowest pour possible. If you guys are new here, my name is Vincent and I'm the head roaster for Tales Coffee, and I love to share different stories with the coffees. So if you guys want to read more about the coffees, make sure to check my website out. But here, I just love to share different brewing ideas with everybody. So if you guys love this kind of stuff, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can get the latest updates on my newest techniques. So Time War actually reached out to me and sent me a C3 Pro hand grinder that I'll be reviewing in the next video. But along with the hand grinder, I actually requested them to send me the kettle as well. Now I really wanted the kettle because I wanted to talk about this particular brew method, and it is only achievable with a low and slow flow kind of flow rate. But if you guys want to take a look at the spout is a vertical needle-like spout, which means you pour very vertically and actually digs quite deep. But at the same time, you can get insane control flow rates. The benefits to having a low and slow flow rate is really to just control the gases. Some of the coffees that we work with tend to have a lot more gases, either because they're darker or they just naturally do, like the Monsoon Malabar I featured in like 2 videos ago. So instead of having a bloom, we're able to pour slower to compensate and control the gases. So that's why it's important to have one of these kettles to be able to control some of these gases. Now, there's another really great benefit with having this tiny little kettle that has a spout. And it's because if you can control the gases a lot more, you can actually use a higher water temperature to brew your coffees. And if you guys didn't know, I tend to use 89 to like 91 degrees just because a lot of the flow rates need to be controlled. And if they're a little bit faster, using a 91 is probably the highest you can get. But even on a more uncontrollable coffee, with this particular spout type, you can actually use water as high as 98, 99 without having these gases just overflow and uncontrollable. So you can always have a really strong first drip and then fully extract your coffee in even faster times. By going back to the Monsoon Malabar, I did a video 2 videos back that was called the bloom back, where I poured the bloom back into the coffee. That was because the coffee itself gave off so much gases that it was uncontrollable with just a pour. Therefore, we decided to let the gases just run wild. And the first couple of drips, as you guys can see, was quite mild and weak. And that just means it has very little flavor within it. So what I wanted to do is make sure that we have a very strong first drip without having to pour the coffee back. And so this particular kettle allows me to do so. So let me show you guys how I do the Monsoon Malabar with an ultra low and slow brewer. So the first thing to note is, because I want to be able to control such strong gaseous coffees, I'm actually going to be using the Hario 01, and it's because I'm able to pour lower. And by pouring lower, I'm able to get an even elongated first drip because it's so close to it that you're going to be pouring so gentle, it's just going to be sitting on the surface and slowly seeping its way down. This allows us to have one of the strongest first drips possible, even though we're working with an extra gassy coffee. So imagine using like 98-degree water and then being able to fully extract everything from that first drip. That is the beauty of being able to use these smaller drippers and a spout like this. As for the ratio, as always, I'm going to be using 20 grams of beans, but we're going to be only using 260 grams of water because of how much agitation this kettle causes. So I want you guys to be noticing how much agitation, how fast and how little bubbles are being given off during the brew, just because we're able to control it by pouring slower. Now, first things first, if you guys didn't know, these paper filters for some reasons don't fit in here. I know for those that have watched my videos before, I've talked about this many times, but you actually have to pull a bit of a tab inwards. So just like that. Yes. You can see you want to have a little bit of a tab before you put the paper filter into here. And once it goes in, you're going to get that perfect set. Hold it down, get the water, and boom, here we have a perfectly set filter. Now once we let that drain, because this is a stovetop kettle, I'm preheating my water to 100 on a different kettle, an electric kettle. But while we're at it, we're going to first start by throwing out the water. And then we need to set our grinds. Now for setting our grinds, pour it in. So once we put the grinds in, we're going to give it a stir from the outside to the inside, and then give it a quick tap. Now we're just going to replenish the hot water in here and start our brew. We're going to start right in the middle. You can actually start a little bit higher to cause even more agitation. See those droplets pouring nice and slow, super controlled. Notice how everything is super slow and the gases are just barely making it out. You can see the gases are slightly on the larger, bubblier side, but nothing uncontrollable like in the bloom back. Remember in that video, the whole coffee was just exploding, so you would just dump it all in all at once. And with this, you can get a really nice controlled flow rate. So we're at 200 grams right now, and the water has barely risen up. The purpose really is to just make sure all the grounds are fully soaking in all the water as everything is very slow. And this allows you to have maximum timing. And once again, I lost my chopsticks, so we're a bit late on the stir, but it is okay. Because we poured so slow, you can see there isn't much of a dome. A lot of the grinds are just at the bottom. This ring is because I stirred a little bit late, but a lot of the gases, they're large, and they just kind of kept up the foam right around the ring here. So we've got ourselves a not too granular, but a not too pasty finished brew. And this is kind of what you're looking for when you have a super slow pour. A flatbed is fine. Normally I have my domes, but you know what? It's impossible to have a dome with this particular technique because you're so slow when you pour. Imagine what happens is the water is just sitting here. And when everything is just sitting in this area, the grounds in the water have maximum amount of time to kind of just sit there, not move, unagitated, except directly in the middle, which pushes everything out, which is why you still get a bit of the gases. But yeah, let's pour this up and talk about it. So now that we're back here again, actually I was always here. It was just, I've changed up my whole lighting setup again. But as you guys can see, pouring slow allows you to control your gases a lot more. And that is, like I said, it's because of how little agitation it causes by being able to have a nice, slow, controlled pour. And on top of that, with this 0.1 size Hario dripper, I'm actually able to pour even closer, which allows me to have even less agitation. Now, with the needle-like pouring spout, what happens is you can actually get a lot of agitation in one particular spot because it only moves vertically. Imagine when you were using a different kettle, for example, my Bonavita, because this actually moves more in an arc, it causes the water to move naturally to the direction you're pouring in. So if I'm pouring towards my left, it moves to the left. But because this particular kettle pours vertically, it only has it in one point. And that actually causes a lot of agitation because when you have it spinning due to your movement of the kettle, of the pour, you actually have it floating a little bit more. Whereas this particular one, it attacks that one particular spot. And so you can create a lot of agitation. So this kettle actually isn't for all brews, okay? Don't get me wrong. It's great for extracting really quickly at really high temperatures. So if you wanted a really strong coffee, even if it was roasted lighter, you can actually use this to brew an amazing 1:7, 1:8 ratio coffee. For darker coffees, you still need to use a bit more water, which is why we need to use this to create the necessary amount of agitation to control something like the Monsoon Malabar that I'll be releasing. And as you can see, it worked wonderfully. At least taste-wise, I think that the texture is heavier than usual and the flavors are more compact. Now the problem with something like this is you lose a bit of the complexity due to how highly extracted your coffees is. And so you tend to have much more compact tasting coffees. Now this coffee becomes like this really rich kind of chocolate. In fact, it smells more chocolatey than I've ever smelt it. So this particular kettle, it definitely is it should be on your bucket list. It should be something you should be playing with. But remember, you're gonna be getting a lot more compact coffees because you're gonna be able to pour with higher water temperature and you're gonna be able to attack certain areas with higher agitation. So it's really good for lower ratio brews. It's really good for using higher temperature and higher extraction. And it's really good for gassier coffees. But if you don't want such a strong coffee, such a compact coffee, I don't recommend using this kettle. Well, as always, thank you guys for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.